Hey guys, Chicken Ninja here for Unofficial Call of Duty, and in this video we're going to be talking about SATCOMs and the minimap. And as you probably know, the SATCOM has replaced the UAV from all the previous games. Again, it's a 3 kill streak, but instead of a plane being in the air, it's a little box you put on the ground, like so. And it can be easily destroyed just with a few bullets. As you see, it does the same sort of thing as a UAV. But before we talk about the SATCOM, I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about the minimap, because as you can see now, the icons are slightly different of the enemies than in previous games. Okay, let's look at it. So apart from the minimap now being more rectangular so you can see more of a map, the icon of the enemy is also slightly different. When they're shooting, they're filled in, but the main difference now is if the enemy is above you, it has a circle and then an arrow pointing up. So that means they're above you. Either they're on the next floor of a building, or they're up a hill, on top of a bus, and so on. And exactly the same if they're below you. There'll be the icon of the enemy, whether they're shooting or not, and then an arrow pointing down. That means they're below you. Either floor below you, down the hill, and so on. The only time the arrow doesn't appear is when you have 4 SATCOMs out, and it acts like a Blackbird or a VSAT, where it will turn into an arrow and it'll tell you the direction you're pointing. It's not live info, it's like on a sweep. But this doesn't tell you whether they're above you, whether they're below you, or whether they're shooting. So that's the minimap. Now let's look at the SATCOM. It's the lowest kill streak, 3 for an assault, 4 for support. It's a box you put on the ground instead of a plane in the air. It's a 4-tier system, so if you have 1 out, it's not as good as if you have 2 out, 3 out, and 4 out. Each SATCOM lasts about 30 seconds. They're very easily destroyed with bullets. Off-the-grid perks makes you immune to SATCOMs. And wiretap allows you to use enemy SATCOMs as part of your own. Okay, let's look at the 4 different levels of the SATCOM. Here I've zoomed into the minimap so you can see what's going on. Level 1. The enemies will only appear if they're shooting, or if the enemies are in line of sight of you or one of your teammates. And they'll stay on the minimap for a second or 2. As you can see, level 1 can be pretty helpful in locating enemies, but it's not as powerful as the old UAV we know of in previous games. Okay, so that's when you have 1 SATCOM out. Let's see what happens when you have 2. Okay, so when you have 2 SATCOMs out, it looks like a normal UAV. A sweeping motion, and then blips tell you where each of the enemies are at that time. And then it'll sweep again, and then it'll update you of where their position is. Pretty straightforward, and what we're used to from previous games. Now let's look at when we have 3 SATCOMs out. Exactly the same as when there's 2, except for the sweeping motion goes across faster and repeats more quickly, so it's a more up-to-date view of the radar or minimap. And finally we have 4 SATCOMs, and with these it shows the direction of the enemy, and again it's a sweeping motion, so it's not live feed but updates quite quickly. Now the only thing with this is that it doesn't tell you what level they're at, so it doesn't tell you if they're above you or below you, so it's not as powerful as it could be, but still helpful nonetheless. Another thing about SATCOMs is if you press start during the gameplay, you can use the map to see where all the enemies are, and the SATCOMs carry on working. So you can always press start and see where the enemies are, and then carry on. Alright guys, that's the end of the video. If you found it helpful, please give it a like, comment and subscribe for future videos. Thanks for watching.